So this might be called sort of the foundation of sociology, looking at the things that we see and the things we don't see. Okay. So, and there are lots of ways to talk about this, but the most kind of foundational way, and talk about, say, the things that we don't see, would be the just that we have different experiences and we have different vantage points. This is basic. You all know this, right? Me, as a man, I see the world differently than I would see it if I was a woman. If I was trans, if I used to be a woman and now I am a man, I transitioned over. Clearly, I would see the world differently than if I was just a woman or a man and never made a transition. I mean, this is basic. If you grew up rich, you see the world differently than if you grew up poor. But the problem is that we oftentimes, in the heat of kind of thinking about the world or engaging other people, we oftentimes forget it. And we will oftentimes imagine that we all see the world in a very similar way. Okay, so I had actually a really cool experience on Sunday where I just personally was in the middle of a different vantage point issue that was just really brought this home in a different way. And I said, I just have to start the class in this way. So with our team, our World in Conversation team, we had a team building day out at Shavers Creek Environmental Center, where we heard about that last week. And one of the exercises was to look at photos. Was one group of people look at photos, and then they would tell another group of people how to set up blocks. And the blocks were sitting on the ground. And then they would be directed by people who were looking at the photos to build the structures with the blocks that those people see in the photos. But the issue is, whoever created this exercise, they built structures, and then they took photos of the structures from lots of different angles and lots of vantage points, so that no one person saw exactly the same thing. So all of us on the outside that are looking at our cards and saying, hey, I think that the yellow block needs to go right next to the green block, and so on and so forth, right? So the thing you try to build collectively, if you're working together in a team and you're working really well, you build what is in the blocks. So this would be an example of some of the blocks. So these two are particularly important for the story, the experience that I had. So these two blue blocks, they're the same size, about 2.5 inches tall, and one's square and one's round. Now, I get a photo, and I say, hey, they start building this and this and this and this, and then they get to this one, and I say, hey, someone says, okay, well, that's the round circular block. And I say, no, actually, it's the square one. And they say, no, it's the round circular one. A couple other people say, no, it's not square, it's circular. And I'm certain it's square, because I'm looking at it. I just can't see anything other than the fact that right there is square. I'm in the middle of this, thinking to myself, the only way for me to know for certain would be to reproduce that photo, that I would have to squeeze up in the middle of the group, get on the ground, and look at it just like this, and see exactly what that camera was seeing. And they said, but I can't do that. So what I have to do is I have to rely on them. And I'm saying, listen, I don't know what to say here, but I'm 99% certain it's square. Then I had an accomplice another person who had a very similar photo as mine. And she said, yeah, I got to say it's square too. So now you get these three people who are saying it's round. Two of us are saying it's square. Now here's the cool thing. So the World in Conversation team is comprised of people from all over the world, people of every ethnic group and ancestry group, racial group, gender, LGBT, rich, poor, whatever, conservative, liberal, immensely diverse group. It just so happened that the three people who were saying it's round were women who were black and brown. And me and the other person who was saying it was square happened to be white. Now, this has nothing to do with the reason we were thinking it was a story. It just symbolically sort of played itself out in a really cool way. So I'm looking at my white colleague, my square colleague, we're going like, yeah, square, got it. And we're certain they're wrong. And they're certain they're right. And so there was nothing, again, there's nothing about race in there. I'm just saying it's just symbolic, right? So then we finish the game, and I look at some of their photos. And here's one of their photos. And then I look back at mine, and I'm like, whoa. They took that photo so you'd think it was square, but it's actually round. It wasn't a big deal. We weren't in an argument. We weren't in anything. But it's about vantage point, and it's about perception. And so here it is, these two people perceiving the square and are really certain. I wouldn't have bet the house on it. Because I couldn't, that could have been circular in my mind, but I was certain that I was right. And they were 100% certain that they were right. And I thought, now bring race into it, bring gender into it, bring class, bring nationality, bring all sorts of, gay, lesbian, straight, whatever it is, religion, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, whatever it is, the kinds of things that divide us and that we argue about. And one person is saying it's this, and the other person is saying it's that. And in some ways, they're both right in a certain sense because, perceptually speaking, that is square. But in the end, it's round. And so this is in some ways so symbolic of the kinds of things that divide us because I couldn't see what they saw because it was on their card and they weren't allowed to show me their card and I wasn't allowed to show them my card. If they couldn't see what I was seeing, they're wondering, why are you saying this is square? What could your card possibly look like that in a million years you could even see that as square? But at the end, they saw it. They're like, oh, okay, I see why you would say that. I'm like, and I see absolutely why you would say it was round. And I was just gotten to the place where I accepted because they were so 100% certain. So you see that, right? Very basic perceptions, angles, understandings, experiences. We come from the world, we come to the world from different places, and so we see different things. The problem is we naturally are inclined to believe what it is that we see and what we've been taught and led to believe. That's sociology at the basic level.